Shalom, this is Daniel Stern from Netivyah, coming at you from Jerusalem, from our building here in downtown Jerusalem. If you're ever in the area, feel free to drop by. You're welcome. Try to set an appointment because then it's a little less disruptive of our work. All right, last video I said that I would bring up some issues that came up previously regarding the Syrian external influence such as Israel, United States, Turkey, and Russia. Earlier I had made the statement that Israel was doing things in Syria in cooperation with Russia, that Russia was helping Israel. And I got a lot of pushback. A lot of people said, what are you talking about? You're clickbaiting us, you're lying, this isn't happening, this isn't true. So today, the focus of this video will be to bring us up to speed on the fast developing events in Syria, kind of see what's going on, and also address that statement that I made before. All right, so first let's start by getting up to speed. The new Syrian government, which is led by the rebels, has gone into effect, has taken place, and the leader, the president, is this Mr. Al-Julani that actually dropped his name, and Al-Julani, because he doesn't want to be portrayed as someone who from the Golan, someone who wants to fight Israel to get the Golan. So he went back to a different name, which at this moment in time eludes me, but we'll add it later. In any case, he's the official president of Syria, and what is going on? Well, the Kurds are still embattled against the Turks and against the rebels in the edges of their autonomous zone, even though there's already been discussion between the rebels and the Kurds about the Kurds getting back the property, the area that was taken from them, but we'll have to wait and see if that happens. Additionally, the Al-Julani has stated that the Kurds are an essential part of Syria and he doesn't want any problems with them and he wants them to be a part of the new regime and so on and so forth. Similarly, Al-Julani has said the same thing to the Druze in the south. Now let's quickly recap. We have in the south and southeast, we have United States-backed militia and the Druze, which are also semi-backed by the United States and possibly Israel, but probably not, that are in the south and southeast. And it's possible that in some form of federalization, division of the country, the Druze will have their own autonomous zone. And it might even connect with the Druze in the Israel-controlled Golan Heights. It will probably not connect with the Druze in Lebanon. Overall, there's about 1 to 2 million Druze in those three areas combined. The Druze are a very interesting religious group that's an offshoot of Islam, but very separate and somewhat secretive, but not really. And we can talk about it more another time, but they are a ethnic religious group in that area, Lebanon, Syria, and Israel. In the northeast, we have the Kurds that are backed by the United States and, in the past at least, by Russia. And they are backing the Kurds. The Russian airbase is in the Kurdish zone, very close to Iraq. And that is the Kurdish area. As I said, they are under assault currently by the Turks because the Turks do not want them on the Turkish border because the Kurds are affiliated with the PKK, which is the Kurdish group in Turkey that the Turkish consider a terrorist group. And everyone is worried that the Kurds will create a country called Kurdistan, and Turkey does not want that. Neither does Iran, neither does Iraq. Syria as well isn't really in a position to do anything about it, but they too would rather keep the Kurds in part of Syria. One reason for that is that the Kurdish areas in Iraq and Syria at least, I have not checked Turkey and Iran, are very rich in minerals, and particular in oil. And in the far west, we have the Alawi, which is where Bashar al-Assad and his father Hafez al-Assad come from. They are offshoot of Shia Islam, and they are on the coast, where Latika and Tartarus are. And in the center, in Damascus, and in the desert areas of the east, is where the Sunni are. The rebels have taken control of that, and that is the current division of Syria. So, what's going on? In the far west and on the coast, the rebels have taken over Latika completely. I'm not sure if they've fully taken over Tartarus, Tartur, which both of those were Russian Navy bases and also Syrian bases. Tartur is the primary Russian base, and Latika was primarily Syrian. Both of them had both groups there. On a side note, it's worth noting that Israel bombed many interesting strategic sites in Syria. I mentioned that in the past, and that was certainly done with Russian approval, with US approval, and even with Turkish approval. Why? Because these countries do not want sophisticated weapons or weapons of mass destruction, such as the chemical plants, to fall into the hands of jihadi rebels, since they don't have full control of these rebels. Even the rebels that were backed by Turkey and took over the country are backed by them, but Turkey doesn't force them, cannot fully control them. Similar to the way Iran backed Hamas, but Iran doesn't control Hamas. So, all these countries, Turkey, the United States, Russia, and Israel, are making sure that the weapons don't fall into the wrong hands. Which is why, 2 nights ago, the Israeli Air Force bombed 16 of Syria's 20 naval ships. Bombed 14 of them, and they were in the Latika harbor. They did not bomb the Tartur harbor that time, but in fact, last night, the Israeli Air Force once again went on a bombing spree and bombed in Hama, in Homs, in Latika, in Tartur, in the Damascus region, and more. 2 nights earlier, they had also bombed the Syrian Air Force. They took out all of their MiG-29s. They took out many of their radar stations. There was a report of a helicopter dropping U.S. commandos and Israeli commandos at a sensitive site. I'm not sure what it is, but I would guess it's either radar, air defense, or chemical weapons, and destroyed that. And nonetheless, these countries, including Russia, are agreeing and supporting Israel in destroying items that they don't want to fall in the wrong hands. This is not a secret. Anyone who disagrees with me can look it up and find out. Nevertheless, if you feel like disagreeing, you can post so in the comments. What else? So, the Druze it just came out recently that half a year ago, a Syrian Druze delegation met with Israeli officials in an attempt to pave the way for them being annexed by Israel. And in the last week, more like 2 to 3 days, there have been quite a few reports of Syrian Druze requesting Israel annex them and requesting Israeli flags and so on and so forth. There is also a report that the Druze spiritual leadership in a specific Druze settlement countered that and said that they're part of Syria and they'll always be part of Syria. So we'll see what happens. If I had to make a guess, I would say that like the Kurds in the north and like the de facto situation that has transpired for the last few years, the Druze in the south will have an autonomous zone that will in fact be a buffer between Israel and Syria. What else is going on? Well, when the Assad regime fell, there were militants recruited by the Hezbollah in Syria that surrendered to the IDF. There is lots of interesting things going on. Just yesterday, there was the leader of the Hezbollah made an announcement to his nation that they basically, for the first time ever, they acquiesced to 1701 UN resolution, which said that they want to respect it and keep it, which basically is the one that talks about having their forces north of the Litani River. He also said that as a result of the situation in Syria, their ammunition and the ways that they're able to arm themselves and resupply have been cut off. Their Iranian routes, land routes, have been cut off completely. So they're in a bad shape right now because of what happened in Syria. What else is happening? Al-Julani has told the Iranians that he will protect their embassy and their temples. So basically, Al-Julani is doing his best to be diplomatic with everyone. He's saying, first of all, he completely changed his look from a crazy jihadist to a revolutionary, think Fidel Castro. And he's trying to be very diplomatic. We'll protect the Christians. The Kurds are part of Syria. The Druze are super important. He even said he doesn't want a war with Israel. You know, very diplomatic. Time will tell. We'll see what happens. But for now, we have to be on our guard. I think that's all I want to talk about today regarding Syria. We talked about the Russians. We talked about a little bit about the U.S. The U.S. are supporting the South, supporting the North, East, both. And we talked about Turkey. Turkey, of course. Oh, well, Turkey, Erdogan, is looking to expand his influence. He mentioned that he mentioned a few names of large cities in Syria like Hama and Homs, and spoke about them possibly in the future being provinces similar to existing Turkish provinces. So he's thinking about expansion, you know. We'll see what happens there. Yeah, I think the Sultan wants the Ottoman Empire to rise again. What else? I just want to point out that in the next few videos, one of the things that I want to talk about is the legal situation in Israel with our district attorney, our Supreme Court, Benjamin Netanyahu, and so on, and the justice minister. And a final note is that yesterday the president of South Korea was in fact impeached. There was a vote. At least 12 members of his own party joined the opposition, which got them to the 200 out of 300, the 2/3 vote needed to impeach him. I don't yet know exactly how the dominoes will fall in that regard, whether he will accept the decision of the parliament or not, since after all, he declared martial law because, in his mind, the parliament was a danger to South Korea. So we will see. But from my understanding, he is now limited and cannot exit the country, and he was officially impeached. So we'll see what happens there. Now, what I'd like to ask of you at this point is, if you have any questions specifically about the situation in Israel regarding the Supreme Court, the protests, the justice minister's new ideas, the district attorney, Netanyahu's trials, all this legal stuff, please write me comments below and I will answer them in one of the next 2 videos. Additionally, as always, if you feel I've made a mistake, please mention it, let me know. I'd like to learn from my mistakes and correct them, or shame you in your ignorance. Obviously, I joke. God bless you all. Pray for us here at Netivyah. Hanukkah is approaching. Remember, we're going to be doing a wonderful online webinar about Hanukkah on the Saturday the 28th, if I recall. It'll be the 4th candle that we'll light together. So figure out how to join that, and God bless you all. Shalom.